Ladies and gentlemen, I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. Now, all I want for Christmas is to do this kind of damage. We all hope and pray that we are going to get as lucky or unlucky as some of these guys. Now, some of these guys that play and they do a mega amount of damage. Like, yeah, it kind of does make you jealous, especially if you've never done that kind of damage before. It does kind of make you jealous because you look at some of these replays and you think, I could have done that. I could have done that. If I would have had that team, I could have done it. But the fact that most people haven't done it, it isn't a coincidence, you know. Yes, you do need a bit of luck. Everybody needs a bit of luck, and I've said it all along. You can have the best player in the world that doesn't do this kind of damage. Because you still need that bit of luck. And also you can have not the worst player, but you can have an average kind of player, you know, like a 55% player that can do this kind of damage because, you know, you need a little bit of luck. Also, it's not all about luck. I'm not just saying you need luck to do this kind of damage. You need a bit of luck, yes, but a lot of it is about skill, about decision making. And that's why a lot of the lower win rate players doesn't get this kind of damage because they don't make the right decisions. And again, I haven't got this much damage before, and I'd love to do this kind of damage, but not always, you know, it's not always you do this damage you're going to win, because sometimes you do this damage and it ends up being a loss, and that is what we're going to see in one of these replays. So we do have two fantastic replays that I wanted to put in a video on its own, because I did want to talk about this kind of damage and how people get this kind of damage. And as I just said in sort of the beginning there, is it does require a bit of luck, and it also, you know, you need to know what you're going to do. You need to plan what you're going to do as well. It's not all about luck. You need to plan. Who are you going to shoot? Who are you going to help? Who are you going to sort of work alongside on your team? Are you going to work on your own? Or are you going to ignore a certain player on the enemy team? Or are you going to try and kill a certain player or a certain tank? You know, there's all this to take into consideration to get the kind of damage that we're talking about. Now, back in the old days of Blitz, doing 8,000 damage in tier 10 was very rare. Like, honestly, like, if you haven't been around, if you've only been around for the last couple of years, you would think, you know, in my replays as well, like, we see 8,000 damage all the time, and it kind of feels like 8,000 damage isn't important, or it isn't a remarkable job, because we see it all of the time. But back in the day, honestly, I don't know, 5-6 years ago maybe, we would never see 8,000 damage in tier 10, and if you did see 8,000 damage in tier 10, it was one of those that you had to record and you had to showcase it, because it was very rare. And like I said, nowadays you see it all the time. Everyone's getting 8,000 damage plus. But the reason for that, and I said it at the time, that Wargaming made a massive change in tier 10 where they upped all the heavies hit points. So a mouse had like mega amount of hit points, and it gained a lot of hit points than it was. And same as things like the E100 and other tanks, they gained a massive amount of hit points. And because each tank has now more hit points, ultimately they're going to do more damage over games. Like, people can do more damage because there's more hit points to do damage. So that is why you are seeing a lot of the 8,000 damage games. It's not because all these players have all of a sudden got good and got amazing, or all the players they're up against have all turned to noobs, which, yeah, that is mostly the case. But it's all down to the Wargaming's the change that they made when they upped every heavy tank, pretty much every heavy tank's hit points, they upped quite a lot. Some tanks more than others. You know, the IS-7 massively increased, and of course you've got the Super Conqueror here, which is almost 2,600. Even a mouse was only, what, 2,500 at the time. So yeah, it was. That is why. So that is why you now see a lot of damage, or a lot of high damage games, and 8,000 now doesn't really seem important. It doesn't seem like a remarkable job, but you're seeing a lot more 9,000 games. You're seeing a lot more 10,000 games. Of course, a 10,000 game is still you don't see often, but 9,000 you see all the time. Not as much, but 8,000 damages. You can always log on to Blitzstars, and there's a new 8,000 damage game on the Hall of Fame. And obviously there are 9,000 games as 9,000 damage games as well. But yeah, it's become easier for the good players that could do 8,000 before. It's made it a lot, or even 7,000 damage before quite easily, because you used to see 7,000 all the time. I'm not going to lie, like you see it all the time. But 7,000. How often do I show a 7,000 damage replay in tier 10 on my channel? Because it's just they're everywhere. You can see them everywhere. So they're not as exciting as an 8,000 damage game. But the 7,000 damage games is what it was all about back in the day. So this game here, we've got one more game. He's done a remarkable job in this Bajetto. I think he does make a little mistake, and the thing is, when you do this kind of damage, now a lot of people won't realise what actually goes through people's minds when they're on this kind of damage. You start to shake, your heart starts to beat fast, and honestly, this is actually what happens when you've had a really good game and you've got a chance to do absolutely amazing damage. Your heart does start to race a little bit. You do start to shake, and that's where you then start making these little silly, like honestly silly mistakes. So the Bajetto now, so far, he's a one-shot, so he does have to be very, very careful. And he's up against a tank that, can easily take him out. He's got the speed. He's got the DPM to not really have to worry. Luckily, he does get away from that shot now. So here, what do? Do you sit and fight and shoot your free shells, or do you take a shot and run away? So he did decide to take a shot and run away, because the reload on that Super Kong isn't a lot, it's quite a load. So I think he did do the right thing in running away, but what I think he did do wrong is just stay where he is. But time, he could have gone for the draw. Instead, he went for the damage. But still a remarkable job. Unfortunately, it was a loss. 2 seconds, that is all it would have took. 2 seconds, then it would have been a draw. But 9,300 damage is still a fantastic job. Whether you win or lose, that is still a fantastic job. And other than the Badger, who put up a good fight, no one else done nothing. And this is what I mean about you do need luck, not just from the enemy team being bad, but also from your team being bad, because if your team's good, they're also going to do damage, which means they're going to steal your damage. So it's not all about the enemy team, it's also about your team as well. So unfortunately, it was a loss for the Bajetto, but he put up a good fight and fully deserved Mastery Badge. Next up, we have N90, a very, very good friend of mine on the same map, but this time driving a WZ121. So this time, we are going to talk about the battle. We're going to talk at what he does, why he does it, and how he manages to get the win. So of course, it is Castilla, and there is one medium, one light tank on the green team, and one medium on the red team. So the medium and the light tank both rush to the A side of the map. Now, this is absolutely vital to get this hill, especially if the enemy does only have one medium tank, because most of the time the heavies and the tank destroyers will go to that seaside. And if they do go, seaside, seaside, they're not going to the seaside, they're not going to the beach, they are going over there by sea. And then they normally do go up the hill, and you can have free shots as long as your heavies are there, opening them, spotting them. You're basically having free damage, because you're going to get the shots off, and they're not going to be able to see you. They're not going to see where you are, but you're just going to have the free reign into them. So yeah, it is always important to get this side of the map. Now, you can counter that as a heavy tank or the enemy team, and just like we're seeing here, the Caro is pushing, yes. The FV is sat there sort of trying to, I suppose, do some damage, but there is also a tank coming around this side of the map. So the Caro shouldn't have been so aggressive there. Like, he should have pulled back and maybe worked a bit more better with this Chieftain Mark 6, because now the Chieftain Mark 6 is there, it's 2 against 1. So yes, he's going to get some shots off, but now it's a Sheridan and a WZ-121 against him. So yeah, he's not going to really be able to do too much. He is pulling down to try and get out the way of the 121, which is the right thing, but you know, when there is 2 tanks on one, there really isn't too much you could do. And now that's all them clear. Look, I mean, he's just going to get free damage. He's going to get unspotted, gets a nice high roll there, and the only thing that the enemy can really do is they have to either back up, or they have to push. Because if you just sit there, you're going to get ripped apart. I mean, look at him. The mouse does get lucky that he's angling very well against these medium tanks. Very, very well. However, the E3, not so lucky. So he does get a nice blind shot there into the E3. But what you need as a medium on this map especially is your heavies to do their jobs. If they back up and don't spot these these tanks that are sat there, then you are literally sitting there doing nothing. So you're going to have to move. But if you're patient enough, then you will get some damage. So there's the FV still sat there. Nice HE there. He is now a 1 shot. And is he going to back up, or is he just still going to sit there? Nope, he is actually going to back up. So at least he done the right thing. Of course, even sitting this side of the map, there's always time that you have to move on. There's always the time that you have to move to a different position because you've just got no shots off, and that's exactly what N90 did here. So far he's got 5,000 damage, pushes the chief in there, manages to clear him, and it is now just 3 tanks, well, a 3 against 3. So this is where he does play it very, very risky. He doesn't have the hit points. The Concept 1B has good DPM, it has decent armor, and it's not really a tank that you want to be going head to head with, because, you know, yes, you've got DPM in a tank like this, but so has he. So he is now a 1 shot. It's a 3 versus 3. He is a 1 shot. However, so is that Concept 1B. But his team, you know, the Death Star and the IS-7, they're not really pushing. So it's going to be very, very difficult for our guy N90 here to even do anything different or do anything more. So there is still almost a full hit point mouse. He has to be careful of the Concept, and as we know, the FE is a 1 shot. So what he's going to do, he's going to try and back up, come from a little bit of distance, gets unlucky there, just so he can actually get some shots in on the mouse without being spotted, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So of course the mouse is going to look towards that IS-7. You would, because he's the tank right in front of you. But whilst he's doing that, N90 here, or N90, is having free reign. You know, the mouse is still angling pretty well. I'm not going to lie, he's not the best of players because he's just sitting there, but he's still angling very well. Look at that lower plate, that's with heat. Look at that lower plate, almost impenetrable. You can't penetrate it, and the only thing he can penetrate in this kind of position is them turret cheeks, but it's very difficult to pen a mouse when he is in that kind of position. You have to aim, you know, and he is aiming. So far, 8,800 damage. He's already done a remarkable job, and, you know, he made it easy. And that's the thing with some of these games or some of these battles. You look at it and think, how easy was that? Like, that was mega easy. So there's the FV. He decided to join the game. Now he's taking care of the mouse. He can push forward and take care of the Concept, who isn't looking at him. And by then, it is game over. So a well-deserved victory there. He bounced a little bit. That did, of course, help him. I think if he wouldn't have survived, I don't think this would have been a win. I think it would have been a loss. But 9,400 damage, an absolutely remarkable job. It's one of those kind of damages that everybody wants to do. Everybody that's not done that kind of damage before wants to do that damage. So that is it. You know, people dream of doing this kind of damage, and when you see these kind of players do it regularly, you do get a little bit jealous. So come on, Wargaming, all I want for Christmas is to do this kind of damage. Let me know your highest ever damage. My highest ever damage is actually 7,930 or 40, so it's close to 8,000, but not quite the 8,000. Let me know your highest ever damage game. Let me know in the comments below. But for now, I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.